Hi everyone, I am Rodal Ahmed. My groupmates are Dola, Arsha, Arifa, Choyon and Raisa. Today I will be talking about utilitarianism and its connection with religious violence. Utilitarianism, developed by Jeremy Bentham and refined by John Stuart Mill, says right action is whatever creates the most happiness for the most people. Bentham focused on balancing pleasure and pain, while Mill emphasized higher pleasure like moral and intellectual growth. There are two types of utilitarianism. They are act utilitarianism and rule utilitarianism. Act utilitarianism judges each action by its immediate outcome, while rule utilitarianism supports long term of happiness and stability. In the terms of religious violence, act utilitarianism might support harsh actions to stop harm immediately, while rule utilitarianism promotes lasting peace through steady principles.
Now I am going to talk about two case studies, how religious actually connected towards utilitarianism. If we talk about first case, like in 2007, Pakistani military army attacked fighters who were hiding in a red mosque in Islamabad. In second case, the Indian military army attacked Sikh fighters who were hiding in a golden temple in Amritsar. These two cases actually specifies how the government will react on when the religious is connected with the violence according to utilitarianism. Looking forward to the immediate reaction, act utilitarianism seems very okay. Attacking to the mosque, temple, it seems very right when we talk about the immediate reaction. In Pakistan, army group, they were kidnapping people and they were acting like an unlawful police. In India, the army groups, they were about to form a new government. So our government, they took a decision on the military violence. They actually took the decision. They thought that they would help more people to save, and it would prevent people to join those groups, armed groups. But actually, act utilitarianism focuses on the immediate reaction and without thinking any kind of consequences. Now, if we talk about the long-term results, rule utilitarianism actually doesn't support this approach. If we think, it actually causes a long-term effects on people. Like in India, Indira Gandhi, who was killed by her own bodyguard who was Sikh, because that person was very angry about those scenarios. In second scene, if we talk about that Pakistan operation at Red Mosque, it actually causes very angry towards the people, and the territory attacks were increasing day by day throughout the country. So the government, when took those instant decisions, they thought it would actually bring good towards the people, but it actually causes many problems towards the people. According to the John Stuart Mill, it actually causes three types of problems on people. Like it actually harm the people's emotion, and secondly, it also causes other religious people very harmful, and it actually made their mindset also very vulnerable. In third case, if we talk about, it actually increased the amount of martyrs, means who actually believed on those kind of actions, they actually gave their life thinking that it would bring very good to their will. John Stuart Mill might argue on that topic because he will not support on the immediate reaction of the government, because it will make the people of the country will become very furious. So if we look at the whole picture, the nation would it is good to harm the nation rather than actually rather than bringing a immediate benefit to the society. It is like solving a problem today, it will bring a bigger problem for tomorrow.
2002, terrorists attacked the Akshardham temple in Gujarat, killing 33 innocent worshippers and security personnel. The attack happened during a tense time after riots in the region, creating a situation where revenge violence seemed likely. In previous cases, the response to the Akshardham attack showed a better application of utilitarian principles. Authorities focused their investigation and security measures on the specific terrorist networks rather than targeting inter-religious communities. They protected vulnerable groups to prevent revenge attacks, maintain religious freedom while addressing security threats. By following rules that empathize individual responsibility rather than group punishment, the response helped prevent the cycle of revenge that often follows such attacks. This approach matches Mill's insight that consistency following good rules. In this case, hold individuals responsible but not groups, and use proportionate security responses. Creates more happiness in the long run than quick fixes that may seem useful but damage social harmony. By the attacks from their border communities and ensuring a measured response, authorities avoided creating new grievance that could fuel future violence.
Next, let's reflect on these three tragic yet pivotal moments in South Asian history: the Red Mosque siege in Islamabad, the Operation Blue Star at the Golden Temple in Amritsar, and the Akshardham Temple attack in Gandhinagar. Each of these events, though different in nature, raises the same haunting moral question: can violence ever be justified in the name of the greater good? Let us begin with the Red Mosque incident of 2007. The Pakistani military launched an aggressive operation against militants holed in a mosque that had become a symbol of defiance and extremism. The state's goal was to restore law and order, prevent further radicalization, and prevent the wider society. From a utilitarian view, the state's action aimed to protect millions from the long-term threat of extremism, even if it came at the cost of over 100 lives, many of them young students. But we must ask, did it truly deter extremism, or did it sow deeper seeds of resentment and radicalization? Next, we turn to Operation Blue Star in 1984, where the Indian Army entered the Golden Temple, the holiest site of Sikhism, to root out armed militants. The government sought to prevent an armed separatist uprising. In utilitarian terms, the decision was driven by a desire to protect the unity of a nation of hundreds of millions. Yet, the emotional and spiritual cost was enormous: the desecration of a sacred space, the death of pilgrims, and a wave of violence that followed, including the assassination of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and the 1984 anti-Sikh riots. Was the peace that followed worth the trauma and division it created? Lastly, we remember the Akshardham Temple attack of 2002 in Gujarat, a brutal act of terrorism where two militants killed innocent worshippers in cold blood. This act cannot be justified under any form of utilitarianism. It brought no benefit to anyone, only fear, suffering, and communal tension. Utilitarian ethics reminds us that causing mass harm for ideological or retaliatory purposes stands in direct opposition to the principle of maximizing collective well-being. In conclusion, these events remind us that utilitarianism is not a simple equation of lives lost and lives saved. It demands deep reflection on long-term consequences, public trust, emotional trauma, and the moral weight of our choices. Security may be essential, but when it comes at the cost of sacred spaces and innocent lives, we must ask, are we truly creating a greater good or merely surviving the present at the expense of our future?
Why rule utilitarianism provides better guidance? The attacks on the Red Mosque and Golden Temple show why utilitarianism fails in cases of religious violence. By focusing only on short-term results, the decision makers ignored the deep emotional and social harm caused by attacking sacred places. They didn't understand how violating basic religious respect could lead to greater divisions and cycles of revenge. I believe rule utilitarianism works better in these situations because it understands that human societies are complex and built on trust. Following rules that protect religious freedom, treat all groups fairly, and avoid punishing entire communities help create long-term peace. These rules prevent the anger and resentment that often lead to religious violence. and they bring more happiness in the long run. That's all from me.
Now I am going to talk about the conditions or expectation might apply. However, rule utilitarianism is not absolute. In extreme cases, where religious sites are being used to plan immediate attacks that would cause terrible harm, and when all practical alternatives have been tried, limited and careful targeted intervention might be justified. Under which limited intervention might be justified included, number one is imminent threat. There must be clear evidence that an attack is being planned would cause significant harm to the innocent people, and this attack is imminent enough that waiting would likely result in the threat. Number two is exhaustion of the alternatives. All reasonable peaceful options such as negotiation, isolation of the sites, and targeted arrests outside the premises must have been attempted or shown to be impossible. Number three is proportionality. Any intervention must use the minimum force necessary to address a threat. This means precision operation relative than both military adults. Number four is protection of the innocent. Special care must be taken to distinguish between militants and the innocent people, with plans specially designed to minimize the civilian casualties. Number six is accountability and transparency. Decision makers must be willing to justify their actions publicly and accept independent oversight the operations.
Hello everyone, today we are going to have an interesting question answer session with our groupmates about utilitarianism in religious violence, which we have talked earlier. Hello Lola. I want to ask you a question about utilitarianism in religious violence, which we have discussed in our case study. You remember that? Yes. How does rule utilitarianism guide security policies for our religious sites?
Yeah, I think beneficial rule includes standardized security protocols, balancing protection with scared atmosphere, minimally disruptive measures, culturally sensitive training, and equal threat information, sharing across faiths, I guess so.
Thank you for your opinion. Hey guys, I want to ask you some questions about the case study we have done.
Sure.
So, how might rule utilitarianism guide future policy regarding religious sites?
I think rule utilitarianism suggests preventive security policies and religious sensibility, negotiation first protocol, and specialized training.
Here I also want to add something that religious leadership engagement helps create rules but respecting both security and sensitivity.
I'm going to ask my another groupmate Arifa about utilitarianism in religious violence about another question. What common utilitarian principles emerge when analyzing state responses?
These cases reveals the importance of proportionality relative to the threat. Quality utilitarianism emphasizes religious and cultural pain beyond physical casualties. Utilitarian calculation must consider long-term social cohesion impacts.
Hey John Lassa. I want to ask you some question about our case study, Red Mosque and Golden Temple case study. You remember?
I remember.
How do these three incidents differ in terms of utilitarian ethical analysis?
Okay. The Red Mosque case was about stopping and militants hiding in a mosque. So the threat was clear. The Golden Temple operation dealt with a political group, which made the decision more complicated. In the HUM case, the goal was to protect innocent people from outside attackers, so it was easier to justify.
Thank you for your answer.
Those evidence demonstrate that act utilitarianism says we should do whatever creates the most happiness in each time. This might seem practical only during emergencies. On the other hand, rule utilitarianism refers to a better approach. It shows that we should follow good principles like religious beliefs to build trust and prevent conflict.
By treating all the communities equally, punishing only those who are responsible for violence, and protecting religious freedom, we can hope to stay safe and live peacefully together.
The greatest happiness for most of the people comes not from quick measures that compromise fundamental principle, but from conscious rules that acknowledge both of our need for secure and our shared humanity.